Well, guys, how's everybody doing today? It's 10 after 11 Monday morning. And, well, I saw that this was a open tag response from my good friend, North Star Knife Reviews. And his name is Ray. And he wanted to know if we had a story on a particular knife or knives that were given to us, or if they had some type of uh, you know sentimental value. And so I do have a couple of these knives here that I'd like to talk about. Now, I'm not going to keep you guys all that long. I just want to talk to you guys about these three knives quickly, and that will be that, because you guys are all have seen these three specific knives many times. I've showed them and showed them and showed them because they do have that kind of meaning to me. And well, we'll get started with the one that I show the most and the one that I have the most meaning for and just the most love for and all that other stuff. But there's something I'm going to talk about with this knife that I didn't really get into every other time I talked about this knife with my father. So I will go ahead and do that. Now, my father was a guy. When we moved out of Philadelphia, and when I was born, we moved out of Philadelphia when I was born, and well, it was mostly my mom, to be honest with you. My father was all about the city and the city life and the hustle, and you know, that was his thing. He was born and raised in Philadelphia. But when I was born, my mother had a different way. And she said, she goes, we're getting out of this city to try and have a better life for Pete. So lo and behold, we moved out of Philadelphia right when I was born, right when I was born. So lo and behold, my father was he was a very good man. He was a very good man, but in the same sense, he was a very evil man. How do I get this across? He had a drinking problem, you know, like most of us did back then, and he enjoyed the bar scene. He enjoyed women. Yeah, he enjoyed women. He was a dapper kind of guy. He was all 100% Italian little fella, and he used to love to dress up in suits, and he used to just he would remind you. It was so funny because my friends growing up, my friends would always say, is your dad's car bulletproof? Because he used to drive a white Cadillac. Back in the day, it was funny, brings back memories. He used to drive a Cadillac, and he used to, I mean, you know, he fit all the roles with being a mobster, but he was no mobster, you know what I mean? But he fit that role, man. So lo and behold, I really didn't have that great of a relationship with my father. My father, first off, my father had me when they were very late. My father almost had me when he was 50 years old. You know how old that is to have a child? So they had me very old right from the get. So I could really never even participate in any kind of going outside and having a catch with my dad, playing football, tossing the football. He was always too old to do that. He was already older when I got to the age when I was able to go outside and throw the football around. Well, He was half he was half dead, to be honest with you. No other way to put it. Really, I don't know how else to put it. But even if it wasn't that, he was always into a different lifestyle as far as women, the bar scene, and that was what I remember my dad from, is being in the bar, drinking, showing off, throwing money around, being a big shot, being a big guy. I called him cheating on my mother. I went and found him in the bar. Me and my sister, we went, found him in the bar. I grabbed him by his neck. I drug him out of the bar. He was half drunk, everything. We got him into the car. We stopped at a stop sign. That sucker opened up the door and jumped out of the car, half moving, with the car half moving. So, yeah, he was like that, man. And, that's just the way he was. But he was a good guy to me. He was a very good father to me. He was a good, well, again, I don't know how good you would call him, but he was never really around. But until later in life, he realized the mistakes he made when he got sick, when he got his first bout with cancer. Then he realized what my mother was worth. My mother was a saint. My mother was the best woman you'd ever want to meet in your whole entire life. She truly was a good woman. And she put up with a lot of stuff from what my father did to her. And she stayed. And she stayed because that's just the way it was. But yeah, later on in life, my dad got sick with prostate cancer and he saw the light. He stopped going over the bridge to Philadelphia. He stopped, and he really became a man at that point. He started caring for my mother tremendously. It was like a 360 turnaround. It just, like I say, he just saw the light. He made a mistake years ago. He did some bad things, but he made up for it. He did make up for it later in life. But I still really never had a real relationship with him. We just didn't, not for any reason. I loved my father to death. He loved me with all his heart. It's just that, by that point I was getting older and I started going out with my friends, and we never made that connection to bond. We never made that bonding connection. So therefore, with this particular knife here, it has so much meaning behind it because I was really never given nothing in my life. Christmas would come and go. Like we put up a Christmas tree. I got a few gifts, maybe. Nothing special. I think there were even times when my dad never even came home for Christmas. He had an excuse, some lame excuse, because what kind of excuse could you really have for not coming home on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? Unless you're really legit and you really have a job where you're really truly working, like a police officer or something like that. You're on call, you're on duty. But that wasn't his case, for sure. Yeah, so I cherish this knife because the way he came in my room and the way he always would express himself in different ways, you know what I mean? He'd never put his arms around me and say, here you go, son, look at this knife. You want to go out in the woods and see what it's got. You want to use it tonight? We'll go this weekend camping. We'll go out back and just pop a tent and just hang out, me and you. No, it was never like that. This knife was given to me in a bag, a plastic bag, and it was thrown on my bed. And he didn't mean nothing by it. It was just thrown on my bed, and he said, "Here, kid, I thought you might like this." And he knew then what I liked, you know what I mean? And I was very young. I was 12 probably when I received this. And he knew, But he knew that I then, at that age, was coming into my own, and he knew that I had a passion for knives then. He said, "Here, kid, I think you might like this, appreciate this, there you go." And he walked out of the room. That's how he would roll. And I just thanked him, I said, "Hey, Dad, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that, man." And that was it. That was the end of it. And he didn't know how much this knife meant to me until, I have it and I talk about it a lot. You know what I mean? But here it is. This is just the Camillus clip blade knife, lockback. I got lost in my train of thought there for a second. But here it is. You guys have all seen it. You've seen it many a times, and it's just got a real special meaning to me. I told you the meaning it has. So we're not going to go too far with that. But that's just the story on my dad a little bit. So we'll set this guy like that. We'll keep that out just because it's just so stinking beautiful. I love it. And this piece here was all from my mother. And I was out with my mother at the department store, and my mother was doing her shopping in the department store, what have you. Roughly the same age, 12, 13 years old, I guess I was. And I made my way back to the sporting good department. And lo and behold, don't ask me why I wanted this little thing. It's nothing to look at, or it's nothing to that I needed to have. I didn't need this knife to have, but something drew my attention towards it, and I had to have it. Something drew me in, and I had to have it so bad, I made a stink of it in the store, because my mother said it wasn't even for the money for this knife, you know what I mean? It was just like, she looked at me and she was like, why do you want me to buy that? You don't need that little pen knife. Why do you want that? Like, you don't need that. That's something, you don't want it. I was like, yeah, I do want it. I do want this knife. And we went back and forth a couple times, but lo and behold, she threw the thing in the cart, and that was the end of it. And she did wind up buying this knife for me. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. I remember me standing in the aisle with this in my hand saying, "Mom, just buy it, please, for me. I really want this knife. Buy it for me." And she's got all snippy, and she said, "Will you put the thing in the cart then? Put it in the cart, will you?" And that was it. And I wasn't leaving the store without this. I was not going to leave the store without this little penknife right here. So thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. So that's that one. And this one here was bought by me, or I think I was with my mother and father in the department store. We used to always go to Kmart's were big then, like Walmart's are now. But this was one of those pieces that meant a lot to me, because as a matter of fact, I told a story on this knife, and I said, "Man, I love this knife," and it had such meaning from my mother and father that bought this for me when I was a little boy. And I said, "I just wish it had the bail." It was missing the bail. And do you know that Stuart Harvey, yes, Stuart Harvey, you all know him, he made this. He sent me a note. And in the note, he had this taped to the note. And he says, "Hey, Pete," he says, I don't know how good of a job I did, but I did some measurements and this, that, and the other. And this, you might want to try and fit this on that knife. And I couldn't believe, that's special stuff right there. That goes right. I mean, that's not just receiving a knife. Stuff like this it's just different. It's just a different thing. lo and behold, I put it on there and it fit like a glove, like it was meant to be. You would never know that it was off there. You would never know that it was an afterthought. And this is from Stuart Harvey, another gift that Stuart Harvey made me and thought of me. And it's been on here ever since, and I've just enjoyed this knife every time I see it, even more now because it's got this bail on it. It just was not the same without the bail. It wasn't. It wasn't the same without the bail. So that tells you with these three knives here, how young of a boy I was when I started out in the hobby. Because I had a true passion for knives back when I was 12 and 13 years old. These are all knives that were purchased in that period, that year period. Couldn't have been much older than 13 years old. Couldn't have been. So, yeah, that's it with this. That's it with what I have to say in my story. And I thank Ray. I thank my buddy Ray. And that's about it, guys. I'm sorry because I keep getting caught up in my thoughts. I'm really deep into my thoughts right now. So, that's it. If you can, I'd appreciate it, and I'm sure Ray would too, from North Star Knife Reviews, to tell your story if you have a special knife or if something, a knife that was real special that was gifted to you or that you, whatever it may be, I guess just a special knife. You know what I mean? Just a real special piece to you, and it means a lot to you. All right then, guys. Yous be good, be well, be safe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks again, guys. Stay well.